So Mayor Brandon Johnson was asked a question about the migrant issue. I want you to hear what he says. And I started laughing so hard. I'm like, is he serious? Anyway.
Take a look.
Hi there.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
What would you want to see from the border deal that's being discussed in Congress? And would you want some limits placed on the flow of migrants from other cities and states?
Well, it has to be better coordination. You know, what we've seen is a very raggedy form instituted by right-wing extremism. Everyone knows that the right-wing extremism in this country has targeted democratically ran cities. And quite frankly, they've been very intentional about going after democratically ran cities that are led by people of color. And their whole motivation is to create disruption and chaos, because that's what that particular party has been about. Right? This is the same political party that did not want to accept that President Obama was actually an American. It's the same Republican right-wing extremism that stormed the Capitol. It's the same right-wing extremism that refuses to accept the results of the Civil War. It's raggedy. It's disrespectful. It's mean-spirited. It's an unclean spirit, quite frankly. And so I got you. I just want to make sure that people understand what we're facing. That's why it's so important that the faith community is leaning in this moment. And so what I've said, there has to be better coordination. Look, Pastor Will Hall, who's also an alderman of the 6th Ward, visited the border. He saw the chaos firsthand. And so part of our effort to go to the border was to make sure that there was better coordination with the flow of migrants who are seeking asylum here. And this is not unprecedented. When the Ukrainian refugees found their way to the shores of America, there were 30,000 of them right here in the city of Chicago, and you don't hear a word about it because it was coordinated. There was federal dollars that were attached to those families. And so to your question, yes, it has to be better coordinated. As far as limitations, we have to have parameters that respect the dignity of families who want to call Chicago their home. It is abysmal, and it's an affront for everything that is good about this country, for the extremism in this country to use people as political tools to settle political scores for something that happened 400 years ago. They're still mad that a black man is free in this country. This is nothing new, but aren't you glad that the soul of Chicago won't be broken? And those are the words of, I think, Beyonce, "You won't break our soul."
That hurt my brain.
It's a whole lot of nothing. And I don't know why anybody clapped. Well, I guess the Democrats, listening to Democrats, I guess. They clapped like he said something. And he feels happy, like, oh, man, I just give them a speech, man. I just give them a piece of my mind. You keep giving everybody a piece of your mind. Eventually, you're going to have no mind left.
What piece of his mind? He doesn't have a mind left. That was a... Everybody in that room is now dumber for having heard what you just said. May God have mercy on their souls, and you're awarded no points.
He said nothing at all. Nothing of nothing. So he just cried racism over the question of the illegal immigration.
And not just racism, but he took it all the way back to the Civil War. Like,
the
really?
Civil War.
Really?
Like, really? You saying white wing extremism are the reasons why this is happening? Excuse me, you have the right to shelter status. You claim to be a sanctuary city. You ran your policy, your whole entire you said you were going to house the migrants because Donald Trump, orange man bad, you know. AOC was crying at the border because look what they're doing to the migrants. We're gonna do things differently. So now when governors begin to ship a couple migrants to your sanctuary city, whom you promised you were going to care and take care of, they send them to you. You're losing your mind. You cry up racism. Wait a minute. Didn't you guys say you were going to take care of them?
See, the problem is the migrants that they're sending don't have the dollar bills attached to them. He even said as much in his speech. The ones that came from Ukraine had government funding backing them.
There you go.
So they were making money off of them.
Yes.
The ones that they're now getting don't have the government funding backing them.
That's the problem right there.
So it's costing them money.
Exactly. This is why New York City moves to suspend right to shelter as migrant influx continues. I said, there you go. Now you're waking up. You're waking up. I mean, it's good. The best way to red pill a Democrat is to give them what they want. You really believe this migrant issue is not a big deal? Well, here is a new video. The migrants now. All right, I'm for human beings. I get it. I'm for human beings. I'm a Christian, but they're also spoiled that they feel somewhat, should I say, entitled, that they deserve to be living in an expensive hotel, even though they have built places for them to live. And I'm not saying I'm okay with the places in itself, but I want you to notice their attitude, because it's kind of like, this is what you guys have done to them. And it's not fair. It's not fair to the migrants. It's not fair to the American people. It's not fair to the taxpayers. It's not right. But this is what the government is doing.
Let's get it straight. It's not fair that they're here in the first place, because they shouldn't be here in the first place. They didn't come here legally.
Yeah.
And they didn't come here in a proper manner.
Yes. That's already a problem. Your first interest in this country, you break the law, and that's a problem.
The opening of the new migrant shelter at Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn did not go as smoothly as some officials had hoped.
Several migrant families that were bused to the facility refused to stay there. They got right back on the bus. What's going on? How is this possible?
The migrant crisis in New York City taking another turn tonight. Families, some with children, arrived by bus at the massive shelter at Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn earlier today, but most of those families didn't like what they saw and refused to stay there.
So we know that the city of New York is a sanctuary city that invited migrants to come and didn't believe they would actually come. But unfortunately for New York, they came, and they came en masse. So what's been going on in New York? Well, it seems like New York is trying to solve the problem of the migrant crisis by creating tent cities and temporary housing for migrants, because there's essentially no more room. Now, New York was already a crowded place before you got 65,000 new migrants in, but now it became even crowded. Remember, New York already has 8 million people. Just so we can get a full idea of what's actually going on in New York City with the migrant crisis, this is where we're at right now.
Some migrants who come to New York City are sleeping on floors in these waiting areas because New York has run out of beds in homeless shelters. Since early last year, tens and tens of thousands of migrants from the southern border have been coming in to New York City. New York City is the only big city in the country that has a rule that if anyone is homeless and they ask for a bed, you have to give them a bed.
Most of the migrants end up homeless when they get to New York because they don't have money and they can't work legally.
The city is now, as of October, housing about 65,000 migrants. This video was filmed by a migrant from Venezuela. As reporters, we can't go inside these places. They're off limits. Some of the migrants, by the time they get to this waiting center, they've been kind of given the runaround from one city office to another. They're just looking to find a place to sleep. And some of them are saying it's like the government is just trying to exhaust you so that you give up. In some ways, the city owns up to that. It says, we want people to leave. They opened this reticketing office. When your time is up at a shelter, they send you to the reticketing office and they offer to give you a ticket, they say anywhere in the world, because it's so expensive to keep taking care of these people that it's cheaper just to fly them somewhere else. It's November now, it's getting cold, it's going to get a lot colder. City officials have been talking lately about issuing migrants tents and sleeping bags and setting up sort of a camping area where people...
This goes to show that they really never cared about migrants in the first place.
Well, let's hold on. Let's get it right. Illegals.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. Let me get that correct. Not exactly the same thing. Yeah. Illegal migrants. They really never cared for these people.
No.
They were virtue signaling. I don't think they never thought these migrants will come to those democratic run cities. They never thought that would happen. I think they were virtue signaling, saying, we love the migrants. We are sanctuary cities. They can come here. Welcome anytime.
They figured they were too far away from the problem to have it affect them.
That's right. And I think as long as the red states are the one caring for them, But the moment the red states throw the problems their way, throw some migrants their way, they cry racism, they cry,
Mhm.
they cry federal funding. But red states been dealing with this. Uh, they've been dealing with this for such a long time.
Yeah.
They never cried racism. They never cry for funding from the federal government. They've been saying we don't want this.
Yeah.
And you guys are sanctuary cities here. Take them.
You want them, you can have them.
And not only that, the migrants themselves, when they come, they ask to be sent to New York City. I heard some of them are asking to be sent to Chicago and New York City because they saying they have some of the best programs. So they are here to reap the benefits that are being handed over to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just that Governor Abbott and many others around the center, so just bossing people as a political stunt. Some of these migrants, they love what New York City and places like Arizona and what some of these states are advocating for. So,
yeah.
And for example, I was raised in Haiti. Like when we think of the United States, we think New York City. It's a mindset. Like we oftentimes think the only thing that exists, the only city or state that exists, I'm so serious in the USA is New York.
Oh dear.
We listen to New York music, we listen to rappers, and we like, oh, New York is yeah. So it's like when you speak to a Haitian, especially as a child, he said, "Yeah, man, I'm going to New York," and what he means is going to the United States, and that could be Florida, it could be Arizona. It doesn't necessarily matter. His perspective is, I'm going to New York. I'm going to New York, and so I think these migrants are coming in saying New York is the best place to go, and I'm like, it depends what part of New York you're talking about, but. And he hasn't been that good. And I think New York is going to turn into a third world country if this doesn't stop. He really is. It's going to be like Venezuela. It's going to be like Mexico. If
I
they don't
mean, honestly, is that really the worst thing that could happen?
I mean, not exactly.
I mean, let's be honest.
No, not exactly. Yeah.
I'm from New York. New York City's kind of a turd anyway. I say, let them deal with the problem. Let them have their little problem.
Yeah.
And once it all goes downhill, cut off the bridges and isolate it from the rest of New York.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I live my area. There's Reading, there's West Reading. It's almost like it's about 5 minutes apart from each other, but it's like oil and water. So Reading is the poorer area, and you go to Reading, you see like people in the street, people doing whatever it is they're doing, smoking and drinking and acting up. The crime rate is crazy over there, right? And you cross the bridge, you get to West Reading. They're wearing suits. You go there, you're like, this is a whole different worldview. Like the people that are there, the cops are more present, the business minded, the buildings are beautiful. It's like it's only about 2 miles away from each other. It's two different worlds. And I think in some cases that it's kind of what has to happen here. This video is going viral. I'm planning on doing a reaction video to it, and it's showing you London before and after immigration. And I'm for immigration. I'm for legal ways to come to the United States. But this video, there's a number of things missing. But I think the general message is outstanding. So the first part of the video is what London looks like before immigration. What do you see so far?
Clean streets, people well dressed,
business minded.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is after. Let me. Say what you want. There is a difference.
Oh, a huge difference.
Yeah, there is a difference. The video goes furthermore showing there are level crimes that we are dealing with now. These things never existed back then. So I think this is when intersectionality it becomes a problem. I do believe we do have to separate to a degree because too much of that mixing is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're mixing too much, it gets bad. Even if we look at the Bible, I think some people might disagree with me on this, but it's in the Bible. You can fight with God if you want to.
Well, you think of it like this: is you have a soup.
Yeah.
You put in a single drop of poison.
Yes.
Probably won't affect you too bad.
Yes.
You put in 2 drops of poison.
Mm-hmm.
Might have a little indigestion, little upset stomach, little diarrhea.
Mm-hmm.
You put in a whole vial of poison, you're going to die.
Mm.
This is what's happening with current immigration.
Mm.
With the laws that we have in place, we're only getting, and I'm not saying don't anybody take this out of context, that immigrants are poison. It's just an example.
I get it. I know some people won't, but I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
But
mm-hmm.
It's like we're trying to stem the flow so that we don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't overtake what we currently have, and that gives time for those who come here legally to adjust to our way of life instead of us adjusting to theirs. Which is what seems to be the issue, especially in like the UK, with all of the Islamic people going to the UK and all the refugees going there. Now they're kind of taking over the UK and wanting everybody to believe and do as they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, in a sense, that's kind of what I'm saying. So I think there is a level of diversity when it comes to spiritual things as well. Like, this in the book of Acts, for example, chapter 1, they were like, God was very diverse. We had all different languages, different people there, but they came to worship in Jerusalem, and there was a reason for that. And they had to go back to their homeland. Like when you go to the Bible, when Israel had to go into the land of Canaan, God was very specific. He told them, like, when you get in there into the land of Canaan, people will say, isn't that really taking over stolen lands? Well, the reason is because everything belongs to God. So does the land in which these people were living in. So when God says, go over there and dispose these nations, take over the land, somebody's, isn't that what the same thing, Christopher Columbus did? I mean, I don't know what you want to do. You can argue with all you want. That's Bible. You say you should drive all the inhabitants of the land before you. Whoa. Like, kick them out. Like, go into the land and I want you to kick them out. Why did God say that? Well, there were a number of reasons. They were being judged. Israel was like a rod of judgment to these nations because these nations were unrepentant. That's one of the reasons. And he says, destroy all their pictures and destroy all their molten images and quiet plug down all their high places. So they were worshiping false gods. So when Israel was sent there, he told them that you shall drive them by all their families from among you. Don't even live with these people because of their lifestyle. That's crazy. But here is the crazy thing. When you look at the rest of the Bible, they did not drive out all the Canaanites out of the land. So when you go to the book of Judges, what you notice in Judges is the people of Israel living with the people they were supposed to drive out, and they kept on going into apostasy. And that's why they had to send judges. The purpose of the judges was to get Israel to do what they were called to do in the very first place. Samson had to come in there, and all these different judges had to come in the hope of getting Israel to go back to doing what they were supposed to do, which they never actually did. So part of the reason why Israel never actually fulfilled God's calling as they were supposed to was because when they were sent into the land of Canaan, they never actually got rid of the Canaanites. They ended up living among the Canaanites, and the Canaanites actually end up becoming their enemies and begin to control them. So all the wars begin to happen as a result of mixing. So, I mean, we can go deeper into that. All I'm simply saying is the scripture clearly tells you God is for the separation. God is not always for the mixing. In order for God to have a people that could reflect his character, there were times he had to do that. So we can say this doesn't apply very well to the United States. I don't know. You can say whatever you want. If you believe the United States is a nation that God rose and it has a plan and a purpose, if you still believe that, then you have to ask the question, is it a good idea to have all these illegal migrants coming in there? What do you think the results would be? I don't know. We can argue.
Well, I think that's why there's a legal way to do it and an illegal way to do it. Mm-hmm. The legal way, we only have so many coming in per year. And with that being the catalyst for our immigration policy, we can control the flow and not be overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think the system is being overwhelmed.
And that's pretty much what it boils down to.
Yeah, there's a lot of people waiting in line who can't get in. Like my father's wife right now, we filed for paid like almost $6,000, and we're still waiting. It's been 3 years, and we got people that are coming in and not supposed to be in here. And she's tested, proven that, did this test, that blood test, and everything. So many things we had to do. So many paperwork we had to fill out. Mm-hmm. We're still waiting to get a call. It's just crazy. Anyway.
People can sleep outside. Advocates for the migrants say that this is completely against the rules, that the city has to offer a bed to everybody. But the mayor is saying, we're sorry, we can't do it anymore.
Okay, so that's what's going on with the migrants in New York right now. But I want to take you back a little bit. See, this is a clip of a CNN journalist who was embedded with migrants traveling up through Central America to the United States. So these are the conditions that they were used to before they got to New York. Check this out.
They only walk when they're told to. The stories here are many, but there is only one goal: America. And the dream is just that, a reverie of hope, of conviction that they will be the ones to make it over danger, disease, dehydration, deportation. About this number, every day, every year, almost doubling.
The Darien Gap is the only land corridor from South America where entry is easier to its north, where it's not. There are no roads, only 66 miles of treacherous jungle from Colombia to Panama and onwards north, 3,000 miles to the US border. We walked the entire route of the Darien Gap over 5 days in February to document the suffering endured by people milked for cash by cartels, unwanted by any country.
At Tres Bocas that night, the tents are pitched close together. Word of the thieves has spread. Plastic provides fuel, almost catching the jungle itself, choking the air. Talk is of food, the lack of it. They should be 4 hours from the boats to the rest of Panama and its roads, but the dry season has exposed the riverbed and it could be a lot longer.
So that's what the migrants have went through. That's where they're coming from, sleeping in the jungle, on the floor with robbers, burning plastic. Insanity. There's no bathroom out there, right? The whole everywhere's the bathroom. So this is what the city offered them, because remember, they came to the United States with no money, no nothing, just please come take care of us. We want asylum. So this is what the city offered.
Floyd Bennett Field will be for newly arrived migrant families who will have 60 days to find other accommodations. It features a 24/7 cafeteria, along with fully plumbed trailer-style bathrooms and shower facilities. The city says this was built out of fire-resistant material, and the plugs in each individual room have breakers.
Inside, there are makeshift rooms, one for each family. There are shower trailers that people will have to walk to, an intake center, and a cafeteria that's open 24/7.
So now you're coming out the jungle of Central America. You get to New York. They say, we got a place for you to stay temporarily, right? It has clean water, bathrooms, a cafeteria. We're going to feed you. Matter of fact, we're going to give you a cubicle, and in that spot, you're going to have your own electricity. Don't worry. And we're going to transport you to and from where you need to go every day. So this is what the migrants did to the great people of New York who opened up this facility and spent $20 million on it. This is what the migrants thought about it.
Confusion and frustration at New York's newest emergency migrant shelter after a group of migrant families refused to stay in the makeshift tent city that's set up to house 500 families. The latest effort to alleviate the ongoing migrant crisis in New York City.
It's not a place where you put women and children.
Over the weekend, as one of the city buses dropped off families, NBC New York capturing the moment some turned around, refusing to stay. This family saying the Brooklyn shelter is just too far from their children's school, miles away.
These individuals who decided to leave, people criticizing them for not wanting to stay there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that people took one look at the setup and decided that it would not work for their family.
A spokesperson for Mayor Eric Adams saying in a statement, quote, "We have used every possible corner of New York City and are quite simply out of good options to shelter migrants."
Okay, I want to take you back about 9 months ago when the migrants had to leave New York City hotels because New York City, because they were a sanctuary city, were putting migrants up in hotels in the middle of Manhattan, right in grade A New York. But then, obviously, that became expensive and they couldn't do it anymore. So they had to send them to shelters. And when they started sending migrants to shelters, this is what happened.
Check out what happened in New York City last night. Okay, protests broke out when dozens of people refused to leave the Watson Hotel in Midtown Manhattan. The city is kicking them out and relocating them to the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal. Mayor Eric Adams has ordered construction of a temporary emergency shelter there for people who are in this country trying to stay here after crossing.
Lord Vader.
This is absurd. They're on great. Send them back.
That's what I'm saying. Send them back home. Because you can't satisfy them at this time, and it's going to get cold. I do understand part of their concerns. It's going to get cold. It's not comfortable. But I get the mindset. They were brainwashed. Once you go into a hotel room, you've lived like a king. You have everything you want, even though some of them were cooking in a hotel. There was fire starting and all these different issues. Nevertheless, and now you try to take them out of the hotel because each one of those hotels, from what I found out, is $255 a night. So that's a lot of money taxpayers have to put out. And those cutting, somewhere about 5% of every services in New York, every service in New York, public service, will be cut off in supporting the migrants. It's not okay. That means cops will be cut off, public transportation, healthcare, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
This will impact the entire system as a whole. It will raise taxes tremendously. So New York City is doing something nice for the migrants here. They're going out of their way to assist them, and they're still not happy with it because they're already spoiled.
Still better than what they came up with.
Yeah. And goodness. You see, this is the thing. They've lied to these people. They told them they love them. They care for them. Come on. Come over here. We're going to care for you. And they did. And now you're saying, get out of here. We don't need you. But can you imagine if they would take care of our soldiers of our homeless, if they will at least put forth half of this effort to take care of those within our own borders who are not doing so well.
It's
At least half of this effort, it would have dealt with all our. So that means that the government can actually fix a lot of problems. They just chose not to fix them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like faith-based initiatives that have to come in and say, you know what, we have to pick on these issues. You know, the church has to come in and clean up, and the government can literally take $20 million just like that for the migrants who've never paid a single dime in taxes in the country, who never fought a war for this country, and take care of them. And you got so many of your own people in the streets sleeping, dying in the cold. None of your problems. Something's wrong.
Or not just a cold, like drug overdosing.
Oh yeah,
in the streets.
Mm-hmm. Fentanyl is killing some of our men.
But
nothing burger.
You don't hear a word about that.
Barely.
Cruise terminal. Mayor Eric Adams has ordered construction of a temporary emergency shelter there for people who are in this country trying to stay here after crossing our southern border. Some of them told reporters conditions will be inhumane and there won't be enough food for them. So they want to leave the high-dollar hotel and go to a structure that the mayor is going to build for them. Brian.
It's outrageous.
Jessica, the city wants to move some asylum seekers from the Watson Hotel to a new shelter at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal in Red Hook. Many of the men gathered behind me are saying they won't leave. The MTA is sending buses here. Migrants gathered outside the hotel are saying they won't board them. They say they're concerned about conditions at the new shelter. They say there's not enough space. They don't want to stay in Red Hook, and they're concerned they'll be cold there. Some asylum seekers got on with their belongings while other migrants shouted for them to stay. Earlier this month, Mayor Eric Adams announced a plan to move single men from the Watson Hotel to a heated shelter at the cruise terminal. These migrants are protesting that plan here alongside immigrant rights advocates.
The Hotel Watson had told them to get on buses at 7:30 this morning to go to the Red Hook Cruise Terminal, where the conditions are as bad or worse than at the Randall's Island refugee camp that was open a few months ago. And the men came immediately back and warned the other residents of the hotel and told them not to get on these buses.
Now, some of these migrants have been crowding around the door trying to get back into the Watson Hotel, but the hotel is not letting everyone back in at the moment.
So now we have this unique situation where you have these migrants allegedly desperate for accommodations, coming here looking for a new life, no money, no nothing, and now are refusing any help if it's not 4-star hotels in the middle of Manhattan in one of the richest neighborhoods in New York City, right? How do we get here? I understand that these accommodations aren't, high-class 5-star hotels, but what do you expect New York City to do? We just don't have the money for stuff like this. This is ridiculous. And the nerve of these people to cross the border illegally, come to a place and demand that they be taken care of with the top possible stuff and the most money spent on them. Who the hell do they think they are? And then if you say something,
it's not their fault. It's not their fault. We spoiled them to think that way. The fact they were placed in 4-star hotels in the first place, that was already wrong. That was already wrong. You encourage them to behave this way. And you promise you were going to take care of them. So they feel entitled. They feel like they have a right to live like kings and queens. It's sad because they were sold a pack of lies. Because these individuals, they probably had businesses, home, they probably were doing good in their home, in their homeland. Who knows? But they left all that stuff behind because we were making promises in these Democrat-run cities. We are sanctuary cities. We love the migrants. Bring them over. And you were lying. You were only saying this because you wanted red states to keep on caring for them. You never thought this was going to come in your own states. I can't blame the migrants. They were lied to.
Care of with the top possible stuff and the most money spent on them. Who the hell do they think they are? And then if you say something like they should go back to their country, you're the racist. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section, because this is a disgrace. And don't get me wrong. I understand people want to come here for a better life, but you should do so legally. And if you do so illegally, and then come here and then demand that you be treated better than the citizens who are here. There are homeless New York citizens there that aren't being put in 4-star hotels. So why should they be treated better than them? Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'm going to see you on the next one.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. It really is.
It's the epitome of self-entitlement.
I don't know why we're encouraging behaviors like this. In the name of what exactly, I would never know. My goal is
my compassion.
Yeah, the question is, why are they allowing this to happen, right? What's the big deal behind these migrants? What's there to gain? Because government doesn't do this unless they have something that they know they're gonna get out of it. There's a benefit that they're seeing something in the far future that many people tonight or might not be seeing.
They want that voting block.
The voting block, right? It's crazy.
That's why they don't want voter ID.
Yep.